This is Wall Street Week. I'm David Westin. However you measure it, the economic relationship between the United States and China is the most important in the world. Bridgewater founder Dalio has been an important observer of and participant in that relationship as China has emerged to become the global economic superpower that it is today. With tensions rising, this week we spent some time with Ray at Bloomberg Invest and talked with him about where U.S.-China relations are today and where they are headed.
Right now, there are irreconcilable differences on a number of topics. Taiwan, Russia, reverse CFIUS, chips, and so on. They're kind of at the edge. And that there's an inability to talk. So there's quite a bit of brinksmanship. And we are also heading into a political year here in which there's going to be more pressure. Both sides are very worried about this. So I think you're going to see restraint. I don't think it's going to lead to a terrible situation in terms of, but it is leading, you're going to see restraint in a period of time where you're going to see more tensions. There's the Mike Gallagher's commission and so on, more pressure with chips and so on and so forth. I don't think that that's going to cross the line, but it is going to raise tensions. You will see also more attempts. Tony Blinken's going over. You'll see more attempts to try to smooth things out because both sides are afraid of where we are. In any case, while it'll be that kind of brinksmanship, most likely there's a building of self-sufficiency. In other words, efficiency was the game before. Everything was global. You produce it in wherever the cheapest place was, most cost effective, and we became very intertwined with each other. Now in this global world, there's the worry about being cut off in all sorts of things. And so you're having that dynamic play, a negative role in economics and inflation.
In thinking about the U.S. relationship with China, which I think is probably the most important geopolitical economic relationship for the next generation, I would venture to say. Many people have made much of the fact that China is going to overtake the United States in terms of the size of its economy, the strength of its economy. There are some questions about that now. Where are you on that question? And if, in fact, China is not as strong as we have thought it is, economically I'm talking about now, how does that affect the relationship?
I think it's almost like splitting hairs. There are two great powers. And, the difference of overtake, if you take purchasing power parity, the size of GDP, they have slightly overtaken us. If you take the other, who knows? The main thing is they're comparable powers in many ways, having strengths. They can do they have a lot of dependency with each other, and they can do a lot of harm. So the most important thing, I think, is how we take care of ourselves. Can we get strong? Can we raise productivity? Can we be politically and economically cohesive so that we can be effective and strong? Because, you can't rule out China. Since I started to go to China, 1984, per capita income increased by 28 times. It's a power, and it's a smart power. So it's going to be like that. No, there's not a winner or a loser. There are only either you're going to have both winners or you're going to have both losers.
I mean, you founded Bridgewater, and from everything I've read about Bridgewater, I mean, you put a great emphasis on the systems involved, the mechanics involved, the engine. It seems to me, without knowing about it, having done this for 25 years or so, that AI might apply to that fairly easily. Is that your sense? Where are we going with artificial intelligence?
Yeah, I'm so excited because, as you say, for 25 years, I would always write down my investment principles, all my principles, and then I would convert them to algorithms, which became decision rules, which became systems, and everything would run, and they would, like setting up a computer chess game, it would play, I would play next to it, and we would then reconcile differences and we would learn together. Now what's happening with generative AI is that one can, take all of that knowledge and have it there, and then go beyond that, to have it as a partner, a thought partner, because the intelligence has capacities that the human mind doesn't have. We don't, the ability to process so much and everything at the same time. So I'm extremely excited. I think that this is the greatest revolution, bigger than the internet revolution. But like technology, it really depends. The problem isn't with the technology. The problem is with the people who use the technology. Will that technology be used to raise humanity's living standards, or will that be used for war, in a sense, for hurting each other? And so, but any way we're going to cut it, if you take those five, we're going to go through a time warp. If we take the next 5 to 10 years, in the next 5 to 10 years, it's like going to go through a time warp. We're going to come out the other side, and you're going to see a very completely different world.
Ray Dalio always puts his analysis of finance, markets, and the economy into a broader historical perspective. And so we asked noted economic historian Niall Ferguson, senior fellow at the Hoover Institution and Bloomberg opinion columnist, for his reaction to Ray's analysis.
There are certainly irreconcilable differences, and there's certainly not enough communication going on. Ray Dalio talked about there being restraint. I think that's pretty clear on the US side right now, because there's been quite a diplomatic charm offensive by Jake Sullivan. Tony Blinken is going to China after they had to reschedule his last trip because of the balloon over Montana. But I'm not sure just how receptive or how restrained the Chinese side is being.
Neil, do you share Ray Dalio's view about the ultimate resolution of this conflict? Call it Cold War II, as you've called it. He said one side will not win and the other lose. Either both sides will win or both sides will lose. Do you share that view?
No, and I don't understand it, to be perfectly honest. In Cold War I don't think there's any controversy that one side won, the United States and its allies, and the other side lost, the Soviet Union, which, of course, disintegrated in 1991. And why shouldn't there be a similar outcome to a second Cold War? Now, I'm not saying there's any guarantee that the United States is the side that wins Cold War II. China's a much more formidable opponent than the Soviet Union was. And I sometimes think that the United States isn't in the same kind of domestic internal shape that it was in Cold War I. But I think the key point about a Cold War to remember is that if it stays cold, it doesn't escalate into hot war, at least not at the global level. You can have hot wars in spaces like, say, Ukraine. But if it doesn't escalate into World War III, then the United States and its allies are probably better placed to win.
Neil, we are told, and Ray Dalio seems to subscribe to this view, that generative artificial intelligence will change the entire world, literally as we know it, in ways that we can't even anticipate now. Do you have any thoughts about what generative AI might mean for the U.S.-China relationship? Could it help? Could it hurt? Where is it likely to lead?
Well, it's certainly true that this is an extraordinary breakthrough technologically. We're seeing AI systems, large language models, performing in ways that 5 years ago seemed very unlikely to be achieved. And I don't doubt that this is going to transform a wide range of economic and scientific activities. And in some ways, I'm more impressed by the work that DeepMind has done on the structures of proteins, AlphaFold, than I am by ChatGPT, which seems to be a toy that's quite good at pretending to generate human text. But all the attention is on GPT. GPT-4 is a pretty powerful system, and the Chinese seem able to come up with comparably powerful systems themselves. Now, what does this signify? In I think, Ray Dalio's formula, this is as big, if not bigger, than the internet? Sure. But let's remember that the internet originated as a way of trying to make American communications less centralized so that in the event of World War III, the US would not go dark. That's really the origin of the internet. And its goal was decentralization of communications. Well, AI, I don't think has necessarily the same implications. If anything is clear at the moment, it's really that the AI will be developed by a very small number of companies in just two countries, the US and China. And unlike the internet, which had ultimately a defensive conception at its origin, AI can be used for offensive purposes.